From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics. Proudly combating the thought police since 2016, here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. I apologize that we only had one episode of Brief News Brief this week. I was on tour. I had a show at West Haven University in Connecticut. Had to drive into Jersey first. Not a fan of driving through New Jersey. I'm sorry if you live there. I don't like your roads, period. Last Friday, it was official. Robert Mueller put his pencil down, dotted his last I, crossed his final T, and turned over the Mueller Report to the Justice Department. This completed a nearly 2-year investigation into the Trump administration. Now, while this is a very exciting and monumental moment for the country, there is still a lot that we just don't know yet. Here's what we do know. Mueller's done. He's going to kick back, return to retirement, and decompress from this whole unexpected experience. Mueller got swept into one of the most potent political crises of all time, and now he's dusted his hands off, and he's putting his PJs on, and he's probably going to enjoy an iced tea somewhere, finding the mindfulness of the budding spring. Oh, good luck to you, Mueller. Now, while Mueller, the man, is done, the political, explosive controversy is far from over. In fact, it's really just kicked up a notch. We know that there's no more indictments that are coming from Mueller. If you thought that the report's ending would look like Trump family members or even Trump himself being walked off in handcuffs, well, now we know that is not the case. We know that the report is long and possibly the longest special counsel report in history. We know that it's at least 300 pages long, but less than 1,000 pages. The report itself is a summary of an unknown amount of pages of evidence. Robert Mueller's investigation was 2 parts: whether Trump was conspiring with Russians and whether he obstructed justice. The conclusion that we know is that there's not sufficient evidence to convict the President of the United States of a crime of conspiring with foreign governments. The president is not a secret Russian spy, which I think we should all feel pretty good about, right? I personally never wanted the president to be a secret Russian spy. Do you ever watch The Americans? That would be pretty messed up. Did Trump aid and abet the Russians' attempt to interfere with the election? That is something that Mueller was not tasked to reveal. He wasn't researching that. We don't know definitively, and the evidence is all laid out in an unreleased report. So that's where the bar is on collusion. Is there evidence to literally remove the president from the office because he's a secret agent Russian? Now we know there is not. He is not a Russian secret agent. He did not commit a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as to whether he obstructed justice, Mueller did not take a stand on that, and at this point it's unclear why. We know that there's evidence on both sides of the obstruction case from the 4-page summary of the report that Bill Barr released on Sunday. The full Mueller report contains a lot of information, and only one man has it, for now. The calls to see more of this report are just getting louder and louder. Trump is claiming exoneration and taking a victory lap, and plenty of Trump supporters feel that they heard exactly what they wanted to hear. Perhaps it's just a little bit of a head start while the report is finished and yet not released to the public. A little bit of breathing room before the walls start to close in and get tighter and tighter. Donald Trump is under a very strong microscope in many criminal statutes that are working their way through the Justice Department. The American people should be glad that the Mueller investigation and the report was able to run its course and that the truth has been filed. But how long will it take until the American people really get to know the details? Who knows? Maybe it'll be like 30 years until all of the classified information is allowed to be released. There's a lot that we don't know, but what we do know is that the Mueller report is out there. Special Olympics drama broke out this week, and it was quelled when Trump confirmed on the White House lawn that he wants the federal government to continue funding the Special Olympics. Trump threw Betty DeVos under the bus in the wake of the backlash to her proposal. Trump authorized from on high overriding the proposal. How did funding for the Special Olympics get cut in the first place? That's unclear. Betsy DeVos spent 3 days defending the proposal, most recently at a contentious Senate hearing this morning. The Special Olympics will be funded. I just told my people, Trump told reporters. The funding was never in any real jeopardy, with key Republicans vowing to keep it alive. The matter was quickly becoming a political problem for the president as most Americans agreed Special Olympics are good. Although some Republicans, led by DeVos, made the case that the Special Olympics is a well-funded charity that can fend for itself. DeVos told a Senate panel that Democratic attacks on the proposal were disgusting and shameful, but she neglected to note that her funding cuts were disgusting and shameful. And speaking of disgusting and shameful, Matt Wolking, Deputy Communications Director, for the record, somebody that should be good at communicating, for the Trump campaign, wrote on Twitter, "I am sure Democrats see abortion as the cure for Down syndrome." Yikes. I would have some choice language if the producers of this show told me I wasn't allowed to curse. Now, when that didn't quite land, Trump went on TV and said the Special Olympics are protected. Conversation over. Eliminating the funding for Special Olympics has been part of all three Trump budgets to date. The budget proposal also includes major cuts to educational department programs that serve low-income children and children with disabilities. The final budget sent to Congress is going to cut about $8.5 billion in spending for education. That's a 12% reduction. But in case your education is failing you, out of this much, it's cutting like that much. It's a significant amount. There's been so much news this week, and we only had one show since I was traveling around doing comedy on the East Coast. Subtle second brag there. But I want to mash up a couple of crazy stories from the week that I don't want to let slip away. Thousands of poisonous toads have flooded a South Florida neighborhood, raising fears about the dangers that they pose to pets and children. Is it a biblical plague? The toads started appearing in Palm Beach gardens in recent weeks. They've been found in people's gardens, in their swimming pools, on their sidewalks, and in their driveways. Residents are complaining of a massive amounts of toads or frogs everywhere, covering every square inch. The toads are poisonous. They're called bufo toads. And if you, bufo reminds me of the Kavanaugh beefing and boofing, and anyways, they're also known as cane toads, but I prefer to call them bufo toads. Bufo toads secrete a toxic milky substance from their heads when they are handled or threatened. It can burn your eyes, irritate your skin, and poses a serious danger to cats and dogs if the toads are ingested. Don't eat the toads, don't lick the toads. Even if you think that licking the toads is going to make you feel good, it's not those kinds of toads. The toads are reportedly coming from a lake, and that lake may or may not be the Lake of Apocalypse. Meanwhile, a concerned mom, and this is the other story, whose son is attending Notre Dame, lucky guy, also sees the world ending, but sees it ending in a different kind of way. She sees it ending in the form of leggings. A Catholic mother of 4 sons wrote a letter to the editor of The Observer, Notre Dame's, student newspaper, urging the female students to stop wearing leggings. She cries, "You can't help but see those almost naked rear ends. I didn't want to see them, but they are unavoidable. How difficult for young guys to ignore them." Such a struggle, a real pressing problem of our time. She urges the women of Notre Dame to consider choosing blue jeans instead. The mother's being criticized for perpetuating a narrative central to rape culture by implying that women's clothing choices are to blame for men's inappropriate behavior. Most people agree that college students should know how to behave and be capable of treating women with respect, regardless of what they're wearing. Leggings or toads in leggings. And if you can wear toads in leggings, I'd like to see that necklace. It's been a weird week.